Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here, and we are going to assess very exciting dynamic game played in the recent Chennai Grandmasters tournament currently happening in India, where we got big names participating. Arjun Erigaisi, who just before the start of the event was at the cusp of 2800, so he was at 2799. And it recently crossed over into 2800 at the previous event he was playing. Um, so in a already elite territory, there are also other top players participating. Vidit Gujarati, Von Aronian, um, Alexei Sarana. There's also MBL, I believe. So it's a very, very tight tournament. I believe it's an eight-player tournament currently taking place in Chennai, second edition. The first edition was then won by Gukesh, who's now competing for the World Championship in 3 weeks against Ding Liren in Singapore. But back to this game. So Arjun Erigaisi had in the previous, uh, as we mentioned, previous tournament, uh, crossed 2800 and is now trying, well, imagine trying to get back to that level. And already been showing really impressive results throughout and really playing good chess. Um, Before this game, he had beaten Vidit Gujarati and he was already slightly behind Caruana on the live rating list. A win in this game would then take him to the world number two spot. So let's see how it went. So Alexis Serrano with the white pieces. Erigaisi goes knight f6, c4, e6. So in a knight c3, normal Namzo Indian territory, but we can quickly see a transposition from the main line with e3 and move 4 to b6. Now in the St. Petersburg variation. To the goal, black's trying to get to fianchetto the bishop to either b7 or a6 in some lines, but mainly b7, and really just exercise some control on the a1, a8, h1 diagonals. So let's see how the game progresses. Bishop to d3. Normal developing moves. Bishop to b7, knight f3, castles. So we're still in very mainline territory here. As we can see, this line has been played um, by Carlsen and Nakamura. There are more recent games, of course, in the databases, but from the Lichess database, we see this exact variation was followed in 2016 by Carlsen, Nakamura, and Carlsen, which Nakamura actually won. Um, and Yeah, so how this game continues with castles, c5, striking the d4 square, and here knight a4. a3 is also fine in this position, not a problem. You can go a3, you can capture back, and in this position, yeah, it's still equal, and also very common. It's these setups as well. Black can obviously take back, and white should be slightly better if this happens. In the sense, yeah, slightly better, but still nothing to worry about. D5 follows, and I guess takes and takes. Maybe now with E4, white's got the BWC, the big white center, and then knight E7, and the game continues. But this game, when knight A4 takes, and then A3, so the bishop drops back to E7, and then white takes back in the center, and both sides are doing well. White slightly better, but then again, Erigaisi, being the higher rated player and playing in a quite dynamic attacking style, will go for some imbalances. And we can already see with Queen C7 here and Rook E1 that Erigaisi with Queen C7 doesn't follow the top line, the second best move or second most common move according to the engines. And we have Rook E1, D5, and C5. So Sarana is building up a nice wall here on C5. Um, Erigaisi rightfully takes back. The knight captures, and you want to get rid of this knight soonest. If per se you don't capture back with the bishop, let's say maybe h6, for example, a sample line, you could already now get ideas of h4, let's say a5, and eventually there's already a dynamics in place with bishop takes on h6 even to open up there, as we can see. And now if bishop takes, just b takes, and if captures, this knight's gonna jump in, as we can see. And ideas now would be the queen coming to f3 and g3 perhaps, if followed, or the rook jumping in the rook lifts as well. These two pieces would definitely be shifting over in the medium to long term, in the maybe next 6-7 moves to the king side, right? But this line is not followed; it's captured immediately. D takes on c, and queen takes. So if we assess now, we are now officially out of the opening phase in the mid game. Bishop f4. White's got some good open position. The bishop's now developed to f4. The rooks could queen swing to c1. The queen could come to c2. Perhaps ideas later of h4, which is actually played in the game to apply pressure maybe on the king side. And black will eventually develop their knight out, bring their rooks into the game, but it could have more fluency in their play. Black does still have this stronghold on this diagonal, the a8 h1 diagonal. So there's chances for both sides. But at this moment, we still see it's very balanced. Queen b6, knight to e5, beautiful knight there in the center. Bishop to a6. So as mentioned earlier in the opening, the bishop in the St. Petersburg variation can go to b7 from c8 or to a6. Sometimes they start on a6 and swings back to b7. In this game, started on b7 and jumps to a6. Black would love to trade off these bishops now, because this is a very active piece. It's eyeing out there, it's got space to move, and black's bishop, on the other hand, not much, unless you could get d4 in later, and then maybe you have more dynamic play with that bishop. So that's why I assume Arjun is playing a6 to attack the bishop on d3 and trade it off. Rightfully not trading the good bishop there. Both White's bishops are quite well placed and developed. So you don't want to trade off your active pieces, right? Unless there's like dynamics, or you can see in the long term the strategic play pickup material. Okay, rook to c8. So now we can see the blacks perhaps now aiming to double stack in the long run, next 2 to 3, 4 moves. Maybe knight bd7, rook c7, and then rook a to c8. b4, knight to c6, asking white, do you want to trade your centralized knight? White says, no thank you sir, not today. Rook to c1, knight takes, bishop takes, and now we have rook to c4. So Arjun is now untangling his remainder of his army, his pieces on the queen side. All that needs to happen now is the other rook to develop. Bishop takes on f6 and g takes on f6. So now we see, okay, there's double pawns on the king side, but it's nothing to worry about. Queen h5 could come in, but nonetheless, the king has space to run to f8, which does happen in the game. Queen h5, king to f8, and now white could capture on h7, which is fine, but still, it's not anything to worry about, as after rook c8, it's important here not to go king h8, queen h8 check immediately, because rook c8, let's turn that off, rook c8 is attacking this bishop. Remember, there's a double attack now on this bishop on c2, right? King h8, queen h8 seems enticing and appetizing, right? You're throwing in a check, but then you got to ask yourself, how do we follow up? Of course, black only has one legal square, which is e7. But now what happens is, not only is the bishop being attacked twice, black's also attacking the rook, the queen on h8. So now there's a double attack. And now knowing that in this position, obviously the queen is worth much more. You're going to have to drop your queen. Let's say, okay, you could drop it to h7 and think, okay, I'm holding on to my material. But then a simple queen to c6. There's a triple attack now. And now the bishop cannot move, otherwise you're losing a rook. Let's say sample line, uh, maybe white's trying to attack on f7, being clever because f takes is not possible. It's not a problem. You can still, I believe, capture on c1. Yes, because even with the check, you have king d6 or d8, and you are fine. Couple checks here and there, but your king is running. And this is the thing. You'd run, and this doesn't work, right? You think, okay, perhaps the rook is in front, the queen is in front of the king, but no, there's nothing else guarding this rook on c1. That would be checkmate. So this is why it's important not to be tempted to throw in a check on h8 rather than to go how Alexei did. Well, eventually queen to h6 would have been fine, right? But not even capturing on h7. Serrana goes bishop to b3, just attacking the rook on c4. Erigaisi with a slight inaccuracy goes for rook c6. And now it's fine to go h7, slight inaccuracy, but still the game's level. The human approach is to go to snatch that pawn because there's no double attack now, right? But there's some tactics in the air here. Let's say Serrana goes d takes. After d takes, it's important not to go e takes d because of now the king 8 queen h7 is deadly. And the reason being is this rook lift from earlier on that we discussed, right? Because now black has to play very precisely. Let's say now black goes rook to c8. Now this check works because it's not just a check, it's a mate. Because now this e file is wide open, right? Um, Ideal then would have to be that after queen takes h7 would be then to go rook e6 and then throw in the check, and then you're losing the rook on a8. That's simple. You could even start with rook takes, shouldn't be an issue, and then you capture on a8. Now you up the exchange. Plus you got the pass h pawn running. This should be comfortable win for for white. All right. So we have bishop to b3, rook to c6, and now queen takes h7, rook a to c8, attacking the rook here on c1, and now we have rook to d1, just shifting away, not going into trades perhaps because it will just liquidate. But white does, if we go for this trade, yeah, it just liquidates into a slightly better endgame for black. But now after rook d1 and d4, another inaccuracy, white has the beautiful move of rook to e4. And the reason why this is so strong is because after rook e4, you're going for rook g4, up to 8 to g8. And really applying pressure onto this vulnerable king here on f8. h4 is now played. Natural, logical. You're seeing the open h file, you're running your pawn. Ideally, you'd want to get your pawn to h6, check, and then run your pawn up in a utopian world, right? d3, trying to generate some counterplay. And now we get h5. And here, Erigaisi blunders with queen to d4. Now, it's really hard to see why the next move would be the winning move, which is then b5, right? In the game, Serrana played rook to e4 naturally, but then Erigaisi gets to escape with queen to b2, right? And now you think, okay, I've got this rook to g4 ideas, but even then, you're running away um, to e7 or even rook to g7. You just bring your rook into the defense, or the other rook rather, rook 6 to b7 into the defense, and you should be fine. Right. So let's go back a few moves. Why b5 is so strong, right? b5 then forces It's a pin, right? Firstly, and let's say, well, black says okay, there's nothing guarding. It's a free pawn. This is not good at all because now we get this bishop takes on e6, right? And if f takes on e6, the cards come, house comes burning down after rook to e4. Now rook e4 is super strong because the seventh rank is wide open. This king can't move into the seventh. The queen occupies. So now black would end up having to give up the queen. If queen b6, it's simple. Rook to g4 and mate is coming very soon. It cannot be stopped. So they'd have to give up the queen. So after b5, let's say black just moves the rook. Well, you're just picking up a bishop. Well, not immediately, of course, because of queen takes f2. So simply then, you just capture, and you cannot go there because now it's important to go queen h6 first to guard the prompting square, and after king e7, then you're capturing the queen on d4. And there's nothing here. If you go queen, okay, fine, whatever, just trade. Then it's mate in 8 for white. So this is why b5 is so powerful, right? And the reason why b5 wouldn't have worked, let's say, if the queen had remained, let's say after that and they went there now, it doesn't work because there is enough defense. The queen can even capture or the bishop can. The main thing is that e6 is guarded and not allowing f takes e, right? Yeah, you just capture with the queen. Bishop's also okay, but strongest with the queen. And then eventually you just apply more pressure. The bishop's under stress, so you need to defend it. There's just a lot of stress now for the white position. So instead of uh, um, instead of b5, rook to e4, and now queen to b2, bishop a4, rook to c1. Erigaisi is realizing that there was some tension in the position and that it was worse. So now what do you do? What do the strong players do? They liquidate, nullify the position. And this is what happens soon enough, right? Queen to h6, king to e7, just making some leeway there for the king. And now the blunder queen to e3. And this is how the game completely turns on its head. Erigaisi cleans up nicely. That actually rhymes. Well, if Mr. Erigaisi sees this, maybe they can use it, eh? Mr. Sagasha on chess base. Rook takes on d1 check, bishop takes, and now queen to c1. The reason why this is so powerful then is because that's a mistake. You just queen takes a7 comes check, but now rook takes e7, and then we can see immediately the direct opposite of what had happened earlier. If you'd played queen to h8, the bishop would be under stress on c2 as well as the queen on h8. It's the same theme here, just for the other side. The bishop's under attack as well the queen. One's got to go. Queen takes on a7, picking up the bishop, but that's not a problem. The main venom in this position is this passed d pawn, right? So it comes with check, and the h5 pawn is to fall. I imagine it would. Yes, with check, you can't play king to g1 here because of the simple rook g1, rook e1, and mate, right? So we have king to g3, d2, threatening now to promote because there's sufficient protection either way. Yeah, rook to d4 comes with the check, and that resigns. The reason we resign here is simple. If rook to f4 protecting, you just make another queen. If, let's say, king to f3, you're just picking up the rook, queen's coming. So very dynamic play there. Slight mistake there in the end from Serrana with queen e3. Just exchanging would have been more apt. And I think the reason being is because of this seeing ghosts perhaps with this pawn being so close to promotion. But in this position, it's fine. And then white White holds this position. It looks scary because suddenly now um, black is all in white's territory. But after bishop e7, rook d4, and you trade and you take on c1, and you go, perhaps, let's say you want to go to d2. It's okay, you come with check, and now you can perhaps pick up that bishop, maybe throw in a couple more checks, because there is sufficient protection on d1, right? And the game continues being up a piece. It's nothing much, but objectively, White should be able to win this. But yeah, this is exciting times for Indian chess and for chess for the young players. I mean, the next generation has arrived. Um, some inaccuracies in the game, but this is the approach these strong players take against slightly lower rated players, is to play for the dynamics and the imbalances and the risks. Because way on after this rook c1 on move 29, it could have been after the check. You just exchange everything, and this would have been great for Serrano. And perhaps Serrano felt that earlier on, a few moves prior, perhaps the psychology is that he knew then he was better. That's maybe why he didn't want to exchange and fight for more. And the slight inaccuracies in the end with this queen e3 cost him the game. But well played by Arjun, and very well exploited as well in the end. Yeah, exciting times. I'll be covering the game between um, the recent game, the game Erigaisi had played today against Tabata Bay, and how he did there as well. So let's see how he continues pushing it. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye.